Welcome to Patanjali Meditation. We have discussed last week some very basic issues that we are following Kapil's Sankhya Sutra regarding what is actually the Vedic concept of human mind and where does all these fluctuations in our mind come from. And we have noticed that Patanjali's book on Yog Darshan, it teaches us how to subdue all that happens in our mind. And we have borrowed a prescription called Ashtanga Yoga. And then we have added a contribution from recent great personality, Maharishi Dayanand, how to simplify the inner yoga, what is called Antarang Yoga, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So the scheme that we are following is very comprehensive. It takes us to the very widest spectrum of the benefits that we can expect from meditation practice. Let me take you to the slide that I was discussing last time halfway through. We will quickly review the what we discussed last time. The objective of this training course is to learn to bring mind as in deep, dreamless sleep. You know, once in a while we wake up from deep, dreamless sleep, then we feel very relaxed, we feel very light and refreshed. So, you know, at that time, nothing was happening in our mind. So, we want to achieve that same state. Ideally, this is an ideal destination, so to say. But if you know what your destination is, you can, your journey will be very, in the right direction. But how does meditation differs from sleep? Because we are still seated and we preserve our awareness, you know. So in meditation is as far as the state of mind is concerned, I want to be worried of anything happening in my mind, but I want to preserve my self-awareness. That's why we don't lie down. We are in a comfortable sitting posture. Then there are something in the red color. So when we go into the practice mode, we will look at those words. Let me now go through the black script, black color. So we discussed last time, we are borrowing the Patanjali's scheme of Ashtanga Yoga that has 8 limbs, but first and second, namely Yam and Niyam, they relate to our lifestyle. How do I interact with others? That is Yam. My truthfulness, I don't want to hurt others, and I don't want to be greedy and take away others' belongings. So these interactions that I do with others, they must go by a well universal code of conduct, moral code of conduct. That is Yam, and Niyam is what are my duties to my own self, keeping myself clean, sense of contentment in my mind, and still intending to achieve higher states like we are trying to learn from meditation, that is called tapa. And swadhyaya is self-study, study of literature, as well as introspection, deep study of my own self. What happens in my mind? Why all these kind of things come in my mind when I sit for meditation? And then Ishwar Pranidhan, that is a bit complex concept. I will touch upon it some later. Last week we have discussed that besides these 2 limbs, Yam and Niyam, that relate to our lifestyle, we have 6 components that relate to our practice. So one thing I should say that this is being recorded. So, and this will be uploaded on a YouTube. And I have already uh, copied on my chat box. You can open the chat box on the right side. So there is a link where all these sessions will be uploaded on YouTube platform. So you can see all this whenever you want. So, that will be convenient. And suppose you miss a session, then also you can look for a session that you have missed. So let's continue. So the first now we are left with six parts, six steps. Two are related to lifestyle. Now among these six, there are two groups. First three are called as outer yoga, that is peripheral, that is more as preliminary, so as to, because as you know, meditation is related to our mind domain. But before then we have body and some non-voluntary forces such as breathing, etc. So we want to discipline our body and breathing before we want to discipline our mind. So that is the Patanjali's strategy. So first three steps are, Sanskrit term is asan. I have translated here as comfortable sitting posture. So at this point, I am on a very simple, ordinary chair without any arms. So, we will practice like that. In one of the future session, I will sit in a classical manner on the floor and demonstrate the postures, what are called Sukhasana, Padmasana, Siddhasana, etc. Just for sake of completeness of training. But, you can do it very well on a simple chair. Then number two is, Sanskrit term is pranayam, and here I have put it as deep abdominal breathing. Our breathing, normal breathing, this is a non-voluntary function. It happens by itself. And our normal breathing is called coastal breathing, when only chest is expanding, contracting. Then we are not quite using our full volume of the lungs. There is a diaphragm acting like a piston. If it doesn't traverse fully, you know, then we are not evacuating the used air fully and not sucking in from the atmosphere fresh air full amount. So that's why we call it abdominal breathing, deep abdominal breathing. So it is a non-voluntary function. It happens by itself, but for a couple of minutes, we take control of it and we do intentionally. This is kind of a disciplining our breathing. Then we take a pause for 10-15 seconds. There is a idea behind that. The reason I insist on this, take a pause so that your mind is now disconnect from breathing and you are very confident. You let your mind know that breathing will happen by itself. This is an automated function. So, mind doesn't have to worry about breathing when we go into meditation. So we know, doing meditation, we are concerned that mind should be doing nothing, absolute thorough inactivity. Now the third step is called Pratyahar, which is a literal translation will be withdrawal from the outside world. So, through our five sensory organs, mind is always bringing in information from our surroundings and is letting me know what is happening around me. But when I want to go in meditation, basically is disconnection from the world. So here I tell my mind, I give a command to my mind orally, reciting that sound, Om. And that is a command from me. I am the owner of my mind, and I give him a command that I am not interested in anything. So look at this word, this sound, as if this is a means of communication for me, myself, who is the conscious entity in this system. I am telling, and I am the owner of my body and mind, and I use them 24 hours a day. But in meditation, I want to disconnect from them. So this my command is this simple sound. Hmm? Now, today I want to discuss more. So, third step was oral recitation of this sound, about a minute. So, I suggest you start it from a regular sound like oh, and then at the end of the minute, it should become very weak. Oh. So, gradually, it should be diminishing volume. After all, we are communicating to our own mind, so we don't have to be very loud here. Now comes the next three steps. They are really the challenging ones, and let me take that up in detail today. The step number 4, the Sanskrit term is dharana. Here I have translated as concentration, where I do mental recitation of the same sound. So my mind is engaged. I am insisting my mind to stay occupied with this sound, but nothing comes out of my lips. Nobody can hear it. It is not audible, but my mind is engaged. But this is not quite a very high level of mental recitation, because as a practitioner, I admit there is a possibility that in between some other thoughts may bombard it, may somehow enter into my mind domain. So, as a beginner, you will see that you are reciting mentally this sound, but then a few moments later, you realize you have been wandering to some other thought waves here and there. So then you tell your own mind, no, I gave you this task, just be occupied with this sound, nothing more. If you wish, you can call it as word also, but this is a technical difference. In Sanskrit grammar, this sound is actually sound. It has a name, namely Pranav and Udgit. It is not quite a word, but feel free to treat it as a word or sound, doesn't matter at this stage. Now, this is step number 4, concentration. When it becomes better quality, then this concentration itself graduates to meditation when there is uniformity in mind. Now there is no more thoughts, interruptions by thought. So it is not that you of your own will graduate from step 4 to step 5. Step 4 to step 5 is the real challenge. If your practice is becoming better and better, then step 4 will itself become step 5. It is not that you decide that, yes, I have been in step 4, concentration for 5 minutes. Now I should be in step 5, namely meditation. No, it is not you are deciding it. Of course, you have that desire. That is why you are learning meditation practice. But it is how you have, how you have programmed your mind, how your mind is cooperating in this whole ball game of meditation, Patanjali meditation, that will be determined. That will be the force where you will realize or you will notice whether you graduate from step 4 to step 5 or not. The reason I am emphasizing it, this is going to be a challenge for most of you, but you should never give up. This is practice. So practice will bring it, then you will be. So now I am saying at the last line of the step number 4 is, if you are no more interruptions by thoughts, then you are like thoughtlessness. So, step 4 is, look at it like this. Step 4 is from thoughtfulness to thoughtlessness. Is it so? So otherwise, our mind is always filled with thoughts. So we want to get away from these thoughts. We have whole day for all this. So you tell your mind, we have whole day to plan my future, all those strategies and wonderful things that we do with our powerful mind. But in these few minutes, 10 to 20 minutes that I have chosen to be in meditation, I want to be away from thoughts. But I can visualize some beginners, in this step 4, they will notice lot of thoughts are coming. They will feel bombarded with thoughts. Some of you don't feel bad about it, because these are, in modern times we have emphasized so much of multitasking, and we are of the view that I am very smart if I am using my mind fully to its in overdrive, so to say, in top gear, so to say. So that has been how we have been training our mind. And then on the first day you go for sit for meditation, you realize, oh God, this is so horrible. There is so much of bombardment of thought. If a couple of practitioners feel like that, then I will suggest you devote some more time to step number 2, namely pranayam, deep abdominal breathing. Rather than couple of minutes, make it 4 to 5 minutes. So, when you are breathing, actually, this is deep abdominal breathing. So mind has a task. Mind has a task to influence your breathing in a particular manner. So you will gain some command over, authority over your own mind. And then this bombardment of thoughts in step number 4 is probably going to diminish. So anyway, let's move on. So I was saying step number 4, which is dharana and concentration, is basically to move from thoughtfulness to thoughtlessness. But even if I am away from thoughts, something is there in my mind. It is like an image which just stays there. It goes away, then another image comes. You are not quite thinking much. You are not processing those images in a very particular direction. They just come and disappear. So there is a kind of procession of images, one after another, that may be something to handle now. So, when an image is there and it is stationary for quite a while, I will say that is a stage of mindfulness. So, mind is filled with an image. Now, image is not visual image. It is, there are 5 dimensions of our sensory organ: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. So, image can be that of a touch signal, that of an audio signal. Something is in your memory and it just pops out. Uh, why a particular image comes out, we have no idea, but it just comes out. So at that level of meditation now, when I am in the thought level, just if some of you are familiar with some nomenclature of Vedic concept of mind, then you can correlate it. But if you don't understand it, don't worry about it. Thoughts are in the business of what is called the innermost mind. That component is called buddhi. That is my intellectual faculty. That is where thoughts are taking place. When thoughts are gone, some images are coming. It is the same instrument, namely buddhi, but it is working at a lower potential, and Patanjali then calls it a chitta. So if you are familiar with these terms, okay. Otherwise, don't worry about all this. So buddhi and chit basically are my innermost mind function, where I operate thoughts. Thoughts, thinking is taking place, intellectual thinking, and that same buddhi, when it is working at a very low level, at a subdued level, that instrument is called, same instrument is called chitta. So Patanjali is saying how to bring now chitta also void of any image. Is it so? So now that challenge is journey from step number 5 to step number 6. So as I was saying, you graduate from 4 to 5, not that you insist your mind, okay, no, now you are in 4, now move on to 5th. No, you cannot do like that. That you can do from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. That is why they are called as outer yoga. Once you are in the inner yoga, this is a very subtle game, and you have to be like a mother is to her child. You have to be like that to your mind. Don't blame your mind. Anything your mind does, you have trained your mind to come to that stage, is it not? You have trained your mind all these years. That is why your mind is behaving like this. When you want to be in meditation, you would expect mind to be blank, empty, but something is popping out because that's what you have trained it. And that is what actually is the business of mind. So let's move on. So step 4 to 5, with practice, you will see it will become easier to graduate from step 4 to 5. In the same manner, one day you will see that your mind graduates from step 5 to 6. And that will be a kind of a flash, a wonderful spark you will see, that was really a good blank point. Even for a slight moment, less than a second, but you will have a feeling, yes, I saw that moment when my mind was blank. So let's look at step 5 is same mental recitation of that sound or word, whatever you call it. It continues, but without any interruptions of thoughts. There is a kind of uniformity. Now, that I can say I am in meditation. This is called as dhyan. But our objective, Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, is finally I want to be in samadhi. I want to get lost into another world which is outside of this particular world where I live in. So that world is infinite ocean of, you call it infinite ocean of knowledge, infinite ocean of love, infinite ocean of I will say some sort of a blissful experience. We call it anand in this technical philosophy, and something like that. But I want to give a term here, timelessness. Timelessness is something you can relate it to your deep, dreamless sleep, is it not? So when we come out of deep, dreamless sleep, I have no idea. Was it 20 minutes, 2 hours, 8 hours? I have to see a clock, then I know it. Because when there is nothing happening in my mind, there is no concept of time, is it not? So that is what is the journey from 5 to 6. So today we have covered basically the whole prescription of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. It will take us time. All of us are on this journey. We are seemingly together, but every individual journey is his own. And I must say, that's why I am so much for this thing, that this is we all have to be modest that we are not perfect. But I tell you, this is the journey to perfection. This is the prescription to perfection. That's why I am so confident about it. Now I have two arrows here, the green color and the yellow color. So I should explain that so that in next session I will have another slide, is it not? So now you are say step 4, as I am saying. Suppose step 4 is not graduating to step 5, and you are, meandering to certain thoughts. Once you get away from that thought, you again come to oral recitation of Om. Again, you go into some thought stream. So you are a bit frustrated, or there's no reason to be feel frustrated, but suppose you just get tired of it. Then once in a while, I will say, you come to step number 3. Do an oral recitation. So if 4 is not graduating to 5, and you are becoming slightly restless after a few days of practice, then this is a tip. You come back to step 3, but not for a whole 1 minute. Just do a couple of oral recitation. Om, Om. This is kind of resetting your mind, is it not? And then come back to 4. Hopefully, this will be better now. So this is a resetting. When system doesn't work, you get tired of your laptop, you just reset it, is it not? You restart it. So that is this kind of a thing. And suppose you are in step 4, and then I will say the interruptions were, if it were not mild, if they were mild, you are going to back 3. If they were not so mild, then you go even to step number 2. So then you are in a larger loop, Then again, I don't say you do 2 minutes of abdominal breathing, just one single deep breathe out. And imagine that whole whirlpool of thought that was there, you have thrown it away. And then a couple of recitation here, then back to step 4. So what I am saying is, if step 4 is not going the way you want it, and you would like it to graduate to step 5, then you try these loops, one smaller loop going back to 3 if your interruptions are mild. If they are not so mild, then you go to a larger loop, go back to number 2 and 3. So I am happy we have at least covered this slide. And as I have said, in this particular session, we will do a slight practice, but it won't be quite practice from my end. In Houston now it is about near 10:30, and I have chosen, and that's what I will urge all of you, to choose a time of practice. The classical practice has been twice a day, and I suggest 10 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes you allocate for your meditation practice. If not twice a day, at least once a day. Otherwise, this course will not benefit you much. This session is just training session. This is not your practice session. But you can, depending on your time zone, you can treat it as your practice session. Because as I said last time, the practice time is good when you are empty stomach. So ideally it is early in the morning after your bowels motion, but before you have breakfast, or in the evening before your dinner, but 3 to 4 hours after the daytime meal, when that has been well digested, so you don't have any heaviness. Or suppose your day was very busy, or otherwise you feel that is also a convenient time, you have bedtime, just before bedtime. But if you are so tired, your whole day is very, very busy, then at that time probably meditation may not be good. If you are so tired, you might as well lie in bed and go to sleep. So you have to decide which are. I personally do early morning and evening, and if I miss out in the evening, then I do before bedtime. So as I said, this is 10:30 here in Houston. I have had my breakfast and I have done my morning meditation in the early hours. So I don't take this as my practice at this hour, but I will still. So you have two options depending on your time zone and you can treat it as your practice session, because we will cover the steps 1, 2, 3 and go into 4, and then I will end this meeting. So you may find I am ending it abruptly, but I am ending it because for me, this is not my meditation practice. For me, this is, I am here as a trainer. I am trying my job to take you into that thing. But so for you, you have two options. You can take it as just a learning session, theoretical part, and then use this in your real meditation practice. Or you can treat this session as your real meditation practice session. So you have both the options open, but you have no problem, don't mind it. If this particular our interactive video session ends, you won't know it. You don't have to look at your gadget and you can still be in your meditation practice. So if you are doing it as meditation, as I always say, set your alarm, a timer for as much time as you want. The whole meditation is to gain the freedom, free bird, gain the liberty. So it is everything you have, you decide, you are the master. So like I am just setting a timer, for 5, 6 minutes only, you know. So here it goes, because as I said, I am just trying to be your co-passenger. We are together in this journey for the outer yoga part. And then in inner yoga part, we all are individual travelers, is it not? Then no two person, not even husband and wife, if they are sitting together, they are not on the same path, Believe me, this is a very, very personal exercise. No two persons can do it together, is it not? So here it begins. So we set a timer, and then, as is my practice, I try to remove all my peripheral thing. I like to disconnect from the outer world and from the inner world. Just stretch your limbs just to feel comfortable. Okay. So bodily we are comfortable, sitting on a comfortable posture that can cooperate with us next 10, 15, 20 minutes. Now we move to step 2, deep abdominal breathing. Here it begins. Deep breathe out through the nostrils and abdomen shrinking inward. Deep breathe in through the nostrils, intake of fresh air, abdomen expanding outward. Deep breathe out. Deep breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. One more last cycle. Breathe out. Breathe in. Now we are taking a pause for some moments. This pause is significantly important, conceptually very important. I am giving a message to my mind that now disconnect from breathing. You need not worry about it. This happens by itself. My breathing will continue as an automated, non-voluntary function. Now we are on step 3, giving the command to our mind with that beautiful, simplest monosyllable sound. Oh, we recite it for a minute, diminishing to the very feeble level. And then we are in step number 4. Step number 4, I missed out one component, I missed out one observation. As you move from oral excitation to mental excitation, you fix your attention at your forehead, as if that is notionally your mind's location. So, your mind is located somewhere. So, where is it hooked? On your forehead. In particular, just between your two eyebrows. So, you will, in the inner yoga part, you will imagine your mind is between the two eyebrows. And then we are concerned with the content of mind. So, there are two aspects, location of mind and content of mind. So location of mind is between two eyebrows, and the content will, to begin with, will be that beautiful sound, and then we want even that sound to disappear, is it not? That is our desire in meditation. So here is step number 3, oral recitation of the command to our mind. Om